that does this. Now, within the E-Verify account, there are program administrator, we call PAs, and general user roles. Every E-Verify account must have at least one PA. The PA is responsible for following all E-Verify program rules and staying informed of changes to E-Verify policies and procedures. Think of program administrator as a managerial role. Program administrator permissions in the system are add and delete new users, including other PAs, creating and managing cases, updating profile information for the company, other program administrators, general users in themselves. Sometimes users' account become locked from non-use. PAs can't unlock those user accounts. PAs can also close the E-Verify account entirely. A good best practice to have at least two PAs. The reason why, it is likely you will run into a situation where one PA is either office or unable to, or is unavailable, and something needs to happen within the account. So having a second PA is beneficial. The second user role is a general user. Employers can have as many or no general user as they desire. The general user is responsible for following all E-Verify program rules and staying informed of changes to E-Verify policies and procedures. The general user's permissions include creating and managing cases, viewing reports, and updating their own profile. Now, another best practice is to periodically review your list of users and delete those that no longer work for your organization. If you don't delete them, they will still have access to your company's account. And employees' personal identity information and PII. So add it to your procedures when an employee leaves, or you conduct an internal audit to ensure those former employees' accounts have been closed. Now, I'm going to pause for a second so my colleague can do the first live demo. He's going to go over, Don is going to go over adding new users, managing existing users, and view and editing company profiles. Don?
Thank you so much, Legina. Okay, I'm just going to take a second to share my screen with you, and then we'll get started. All right. Legina, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. If for whatever reason you cannot see my screen, um, due to some technical difficulty, please don't worry. The slide set with demonstration slides will be available for download at the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's get started. This first presentation is geared for program administrators, but don't worry, general users, we're going to cover you in our second demonstration. But this is also good information to know if you happen to become a program administrator. So this is what the homepage looks like when you log in. So the first thing we're going to do is teach you how to add new users. So the first thing we want to do is go over to the right-hand side up at the top where our name is located, and we're going to hit that little drop-down arrow. From there, we're going to go to company account, and then from there, we're going to go to manage users. Once that page opens up, you're going to see this blue box over to the right-hand side that says Add User. We'll click on that, and now we can select the user role. So as Legina has already stated, we have two user roles. For us, we're going to select a program administrator, and then we're going to hit Next. From there, we need to put in an email address. then a first name. If we had a middle initial, we would put that in there. Our last name, we are required to put in a telephone number. Do not put the dashes in there. And if you have a telephone extension, you can add it in there. From there, all we have to do is select Next, and our system will auto-generate a user ID based on the first initial of the first name, followed by the first 3 letters of the last, followed by 4 random numbers. Now, this user ID is specifically for the user it is intended to be developed for. You cannot utilize password sharing or user ID sharing. It is not permitted. And you cannot set up user IDs for departments. They must be relegated to a specific user in the account. If at any point in time you do not want to accept this user ID and you want to make it more personalized to the person who it's going to, you can simply highlight the user ID and change it to reflect what you want it to be. So we're going to accept this, but I'm not going to submit a new ID because I don't need to. So all you would have to do is just click on this Submit New ID. And from there, an email is going to go out to the employee that's going to provide them with their user ID and a temporary password, as well as instructions on how to log in and what to do. And that, folks, is how we add a new user. So now we're gonna go back to our home screen, and our next demonstration that we're going to show you is how do we manage our users in the system. So again, we're going to go over to where our name is located. We're going to hit that drop down arrow. We're going to then go to company account, hit that drop down, and we're going to go back to manage users. Now, again, it took us to the same area where we go to add a new user. But here, you're going to see all the other users that are located within this account. And you can see a status, a user role, and you can also see the last time that they had logged in to the account, as well as other actions that you can perform over here on the right-hand side. Now, if you're not sure if they don't show up on this list, you can search them by their user ID, first name, and or last name. You can also search by their user role and or their user status. So I want to find one of my employees by the first name of Phil. And as you can see, these are all the user IDs that Phil has. So there, I do see the user ID that I want to update. So all I have to do is click on that user ID. And now the user information is going to pop up. So if I needed to change an email address or the user role of this person, all I have to do is hit edit user information, and I can change the information within here and then hit save. So for example, if you have a general user who is now going to be upgraded to a program administrator, you can do that in this user ID area. So all you have to do is go from general user to program administrator, hit save, but then you'll need to notify the person because they're not going to receive a helpful email that is going to tell them that they are now a new program administrator. So let them know that they've been upgraded to a program administrator and that they'll have to complete the program administrator tutorial because the two roles are different. They will keep their previous user ID as well as password. Now, just remember, the only information you cannot change within this edit user information area is the user ID. So if the person happens to have a name change, you would have to delete this user ID and then submit a new request to add a new user with that different name. Now, just remember, if you are a program administrator or a general user and you go to a different company or you change roles within the same company, you do not have to take that tutorial again. We can give you tutorial credit, and you can get that by just contacting our customer support team and give them the information that they need to assist you with that. So I don't need to change any of the information for Phil. And I don't have to update the password. But if I did, I would just select that change password, put in the new password, confirm it, and then make sure you click this box to force the user to change their password after login. Let them know what the new temporary password is, so that when they log in using that temporary password, they'll be able to update their current user ID and password. Now, we do have a habit where if you do need to delete a user because they've left the company, all you have to do is simply select delete user and follow the prompts. That is what you definitely want to do if an employee has left the HR department and you do not want to have access to the E-Verify account. Now, within our system, E-Verify users, their user ID will deactivate after 270 days of non-use. At that point, once it does deactivate, they're going to have to come to you, program administrator, to reactivate that user ID. All you have to do is simply select this reactivate user button and then follow the instructions in there. And that's how simple it is to update our user information for our employee. Now, let's go back to the home screen. The last demonstration I want to show you is how you as a program administrator can update your company profile. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over to where our name is. Hit that drop down. We're going to go to company account again, hit drop down, and then this time we're going to go to the first one that says company profile. Once that page opens up, this is your company profile page. In here, if you need to adjust any of the information in here to update it, let's say you had a change of EIN or the name of the business has changed, you don't have to open up a new account because then you'll risk losing all that historical data of cases that you've run previously. All you have to do is hit that edit company information and adjust the information in here, and you'll maintain that historical data. Now, let's say you want to change your company address and your hiring sites. You can do so by clicking on these buttons here. Now, for those who become federal contractors, one of the things that you can do is be able to e-verify your existing users. But you can't do that until you've changed your employer category. So I'm going to show you how to update that now. So all we have to do is hit this Edit Employer Category. The first category we're going to see is which category best describes our company. Previously, we answered none of these categories apply because that's the most common response that we have in here. But now we're a federal contractor. The next item will open up and it's going to ask us, what type of federal contractor are you? Well, we're a contractor with that FAR E-Verify clause. From there, we're going to be asked, what type of federal contractor with that clause are we? So in most cases, we're going to select none of these categories apply unless you belong to one of these other institutions that are listed below. Once you've selected the none of these categories apply, now you have to select what employees will our company verify. You have two choices: all new hires and all existing employees assigned to that specific federal contract, or the entire workforce. And that includes all new hires and all existing employees throughout the entire company. For us, it's easier to just do those that are new hires and working on that contract. Once that opens up, we are then going to have to input our unique entity identifier, which is known as a UEI. Now, if you don't know what that is, we do have helper text, a helper bubble to the right. You can click on that and it's going to tell you what a UEI is and where you can go to either retrieve it or apply for a UEI. And that's at sam.gov. To learn more about the UEI, just hit this hyperlink here and you'll be taken to the site to get more information. Now, once you input that information here, you'll select Save and it will update your information in the company profile. Now, this first page of your company profile is your first form of physical proof that you're enrolled in the E-Verify program. So you can print this page and scan it onto your desktop as your first form of physical proof. Now, the most important piece of information that's in here is your company ID. This is your E-Verify company ID number. And that's what proves you're enrolled in the E-Verify program. So if somebody requests proof of enrollment, you can simply give them that or this company profile page. You can also give them your company MOU. Now, the company ID on the MOU is located on every page of your MOU in the upper left-hand corner. So if you wanted to give them your signature page and the company information pages from your MOU, you would simply click here to view the current MOU. And from there, you're going to want to print pages 13 through 16, or in a web services account, you're going to print pages 19 through 22. And then you can scan that onto your desktop and provide that as proof if it's ever asked for. Now, one of the last things I want to cover is that any changes that you make in that company profile will automatically change this company profile page. So make sure if you've printed and scanned this onto your desktop, you need to reprint and then rescan it again. Okay, so that concludes our first demonstration. I'm going to turn it back over to Legina to do our second portion.
Thank you, Don. That was excellent. And guess what? He has two more live demos to give to you guys. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about the Form I-9 process and what all employees and employers must do if your company is enrolled in E-Verify. Form I-9 needs to be completed by the employees by the first day of work for pay. This section 2 is completed by the employer no later than the employee's third business day after the employee's first day of work for pay. What do I mean by that? So let's just say that the employee started work on Monday. You would count the first day would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday being the third business day after the first day of work for pay. Now, also creating a case in E-Verify needs to be completed by the third business day after the employee's first day of work for pay. Form I-9 itself does not require the employee's social security number, but once your company becomes an E-Verify participant, it is required. Once your company enrolls in E-Verify, any List B documents that an employee presents must contain a photograph. Now, what's nice about E-Verify, to create a case, all you do is take the completed Form I-9 and enter the information from section 1 and 2. I want to talk about that social security number. Once this is required and they put it in section 1, that does not mean that you're going to ask the employee for their social security card to complete section 2. Two separate entities. The section 1 social security number is for E-Verify creating a case. Section 2 is for your company to verify their documents that they provide you through the list of acceptable documents. Now, the employer will make and retain a photocopy of the employee who employee chooses to present one of the 3 photo matching documents: the I-766, the I-551, U.S. passport, or a passport card. You must copy the front and back of these cards. If the employee presents a U.S. passport, you must copy the front page and the back barcode page. Now, Supplement B of the Form I-9 is generally for a re-verification of the employee's expiring work eligibility. When an employee's work authorization is re-verified in Supplement B of the Form I-9, you do not re-verify and E-Verify, and you do not create another E-Verify case for the employee. Now, this slide actually depicts the process of how the Form I-9 works hand in hand with E-Verify and how the partners work with E-Verify. You just simply take the information in section 1 and 2 of the Form I-9 and put it into the database, and then click submit, and in seconds it goes to the Department of Homeland Security and Social Security Administration. And some results you will see 99%, 99.9% of the time, employment authorized. That's a green light, thumbs up. The other two, the tentative non-confirmation mismatch, we call it TNC, or the the verification in process, those are yellow. And we're going to talk more about the results of this in the webinar. But right now, I am going to stop again so I could give the mic back to Don so he could go over the case creation, managing case alerts, view and search cases, and reports. Don?
Thank you again. All right, let's go back to sharing my screen again. And here we go. So now this is for everyone, general users and program administrators. So again, we're back at our home page. The first thing we want to do when it comes to creating a new case, we can do it one of 2 ways. We can go up to the home buttons up at the top and select cases, or we can go to the quick links button and select create new case. I'm going to select create new case. And from there, it is as simple as entering our information. We'll put in We don't have a middle initial. We don't have any other last names used. Our date of birth is 1/10/1989. And from here, we're going to put in our social security number. Now, as you can see, it stayed red because the information I input was incorrect. The Social Security Administration is not issuing any Social Security numbers that begin with the number 9. Those are only issued by the IRS, and these are called the individual taxpayer ID number, which is called an ITIN. The ITIN issued by the IRS does not authorize work. It has to be a Social Security number. So that cannot be used. So I'm just going to correct my mistake. And next I can move on to my employee's email address. Well, they didn't give me an email address on the Form I-9, so I'm just going to select no email address provided. Now, next, once all that information's in, I'm going to click continue. From there, I'm going to pick the citizenship status. From here, our person said they were a lawful permanent resident. Now I have to put in the documents that they presented. So they gave me their lawful permanent resident card. Now, when you select any of the citizenship statuses that are up here, only those documents that can be presented by that status will appear in any one of these boxes. So for us, they gave us their permanent resident card. So we know that's a list A document. And when we hit the drop down, you see only those 3 items that a lawful permanent resident can present when it comes to list A. So we just select the permanent resident card. And now I have to put in the information regarding their card. First is the USCIS number. Here, I'm going to put in a number, which is anywhere from 6 to 9 digits or 7 to 9 digits. If you happen to have a USCIS number that is less than 9 digits, you must add leading zeros to the front of that number to get it to 9 digits. Don't worry about putting the A in. Our system will automatically do that for you. Now, we have to put in the document number, but I'm not sure where that's located. So all I have to do is hit this hyperlink down below here. Where can I find this number? So we get helper text that's going to tell us where to find this information. So as excuse me, as you can see, the document number, it tells me the information here, and it shows me that I can find that information on the back of the card in that first line of letters. So I also have other versions of the card down below, that being that this is the newest version that came out in January of 2023. This next version came out in 2017 and is still valid as long as it's unexpired. Then we have other cards. For example, this resident alien card, which is a very old card that was issued between January of 1977 and August of 1989. They are still valid. They don't contain document numbers or expiration dates because they're valid indefinitely. And for the document number, what you'll use is the USCIS number. And then, of course, we had the previous resident alien card to this one, and you can see that it is expired and not acceptable. And that's that card that was pink in color. So here, all we have to do is put in our document number, which is 3 letters followed by 10 numbers. Once we've put it in there, we just hit continue and it will auto-fill in the document number field. From there, all we have to do is hit continue, and now we're there to put the first day of work for pay. And that's found under the additional case details. So you have 3 options here: today, 1 day ago, or 2 days ago. If the employee was hired more than 2 days ago, and we put that date in there, you're going to get an alert that's going to ask you, hey, we recognize this is not within the 3-day time frame. What is the reason for the delay? And all you have to do is just go to the drop down and select the most accurate response in here. If you have to choose other, you can type in the reason for your delay. For us, we were just waiting for the Social Security number because they had to get a replacement. So here you see the employee ID. If and when we have a non-citizen authorized to work and they present us with a foreign passport and a 994, there will be several other options that are in here, which include the CVIS ID number and the visa number. All of these options are optional. So with the employee ID, again, an optional field that can be used by the employer if they want to use some internal tracking mechanism to track their employees. We don't have one, so we're just going to continue. From there, we're almost ready to submit our case. Prior to me selecting that continue button, if there was anything wrong with the information, all we would have had to do was simply scroll up and change the information. But once I hit continue, it is now saved as a draft. So as I'm looking at this information, if I see that something I input is incorrect, I have to select the Edit Case Details button and make the change. If there's nothing wrong, then all I do is submit my case. If at any point in time I need to verify some kind of information during my input, I can hit save and exit, verify the information, come back, open up the case, and continue where I left off. So I'm not going to submit this case because I don't need to. And so from this point, I'm just going to go back to the home page. Now, we're going to talk about some of these case alerts. So when you have cases that are input, you have these alerts here, which will notify you if you have a particular situation going on. For us, there are 4 of them. So the first one we're going to discuss are cases to be closed. So as Legina had already mentioned, there are situations where you might receive a final non-confirmation, or the information you input is incorrect and the agency wants you to close the case and resubmit. That's where you can do that in here. You'll also find cases that are incomplete, meaning they need an action on your part to continue with the case submission, whether it's you're missing a piece of information or it needs some type of correction. All you have to do is go to continue case and then follow the prompts within the system. Now, you can also search any of the cases here by the information that's in the parentheses up here. You can hit the show filters, and then you can search based on any of the categories that are listed here, as well as a submission date from and to date when you submitted your case. But you can also see all your cases here, and they will be from the most recent to some that have been put in a while ago. So now when we go back, our next case alert are cases with updates. If you have a case that is E-Verify needs more time or case in continuance, and all of a sudden you get a result that it's now a tentative non-confirmation, you're going to find that alert here. Remember, if your case is verified, it is automatically closed when you get that employment authorization. And you'll find that down here under recently auto-closed cases. Then we have our cases with expiring docs. We don't have any in there, but this is a 90-day cursory notification to you that someone either has an EAD card or a 994, and that is about to expire, or their work authorization is about to expire. So they need to present to you, and you need to do a re-verification once they get you their notice of action, which would extend the EAD, or they get their new EAD card. So you'll just complete supplement B. You won't do a new case, just complete that supplement and you're done. So now our last item that we're going to discuss in our second demonstration are how we search for cases. And again, you'll do that by either going to cases or hit our quick links for search cases. And of course, I've already gone over how you can search these cases, but again, they are listed in the order here. And you can also use this drop down to be able to find it by last name or first day of employment. Again, you can show those filters and search your cases by any of these categories. So that concludes our second demonstration. I'm going to turn it back over to Legina to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Dawn. Okay, so let's get started. Users are prompted to review and confirm that the information entered is correct and may edit case details before submitting the case. If the information entered does not immediately match official government records that E-Verify can access, the review case "Are you sure?" screen appears so the user can confirm that the information entered matches the Form I-9. Users may either confirm that the information matches the Form I-9 by selecting information entered matches Form I-9, or select information does not match the Form I-9 and edit the information in the prompted field if they enter the information incorrectly. E-Verify now requires users to re-enter the employee's Social Security number twice when this "Are you sure?" alert is triggered. Now, tentative non-confirmation, which is our TNC, is only a small fraction of cases, but require action by both the employer and the employee. A TNC means that the information entered into E-Verify does not match records available to SSA and or DHS. A TNC does not necessarily mean employees are not authorized to work. This slide shows some common reasons for the TNC, known as a mismatch. The Social Security number, we do have human error. It does happen. Maybe the employer accidentally did one number off. That is a common error for Social Security. Citizenship or immigration status change is not reported. Maybe they went from a lawful permanent resident and they are now a naturalized U.S. citizen, and they failed to report that. Name change is not reported. Maybe they got married or divorced and they want to change their name and they failed to report that. Information is not entered correctly. I just gave you that demonstration with the Social Security number. So you may ask, what if I get a mismatch? What do I do as an employer? If the E-Verify case results in a tentative non-confirmation, there are certain actions that the employer must take within 10 federal government working days after the mismatch. Employers must print the TNC further action notice, which we call the FAN, and review it with the employee promptly and privately. Employee decides whether or not to take action on the TNC. If the employee chooses to take action, employer must provide the referral date confirmation. Employer receives updated results in E-Verify and close the case. If the employee decides not to take action or fail to provide their decision by the end of the 10th federal government working day, please close the case. If the E-Verify case results in a TNC, there are certain actions, again, that you must take. Confirm if the information on the further action notice, the FAN that I said, is correct. Employers print the TNC FAN and review it with the employee promptly, as I mentioned, and make sure it's up in private. Decide whether to take action to resolve that mismatch and not or not, and then indicate that on the FAN by signing and dating the FAN. If the employee chooses to take action, employer provides the referral date confirmation. The employee will visit SSA field office and or call DHS within 8 federal government working days and present the FAN. Now that's a new clock. We mentioned that the employer had 10 days, federal government work days, to contact and sit down with the employee. Once the employee says they are going to contest it, then they have their own clock, which is 8 days, 8 federal government working days to reach out to the SSA or DHS. Now the employer receives updated results in E-Verify and close the case. Just stay up to date by reviewing E-Verify what's new or TNC extensions due to public office closures. The first 2 documents are what the 2-page further action notice looks like. And to the right is what the referral date confirmation looks like. The FAN is generated when an employee receives a TNC. If the employee receives a mismatch from both DHS and SSA, a dual TNC will be generated with instructions for how to resolve both mismatches. What you should know and actions to take regarding the FAN, the employee information and reason for the TNC are populated at the top of the FAN secure fillable PDF. The employer should not influence or coerce an employee's decision whether or not to contest a TNC. Employers will sign and date page 1. The employee must sign, date, and indicate on page 2 whether he or she will contest the TNC or not. Give a copy to the employee and keep the original on file with the Form I-9. It's important that the employee follows the instructions provided on the FAN. Failure to follow the instructions could lead to the employee receiving a final non-confirmation. Now, I mentioned earlier on in the webinar about the results once you hit that submit button when you input into the E-Verify database. Well, these are the results. We already talked about the employee authorized. That's a green light. The employee is authorized to work. And it's the next 3 that you see are in yellow. The E-Verify needs more time. That just means that it was referred over to DHS and for further verification. The TNC mismatch we talked about, that information does not match records available to both of the agencies. Case in continuance, the employee has visited SSA field office or called DHS, but more time is needed to determine a final case result. The next one, the final non-confirmation, is in red. That means that the E-Verify cannot confirm the employee's employment eligibility after the employee visited SSA or called DHS. Now, close case and resubmit. Let me just give you a scenario, and we're going to go back to the common error, the Social Security. Say that the employer did make that error, but they are unaware of that error, and they sat down, the employee decided to contest. They went to Social Security with their identification, the Social Security card, and verified that it is their Social Security number. And so SSA agreed, they confirmed, they will send that alert and tell you to close the case and resubmit. Here are some best practices. Our goal in E-Verify engagement branch is to make sure that you have all the tools and you know how to make E-Verify a reliable part of your employment verification process. Here are, again, these are some best practices that we have for you. Having two PAs, those program administrators, ensure that you have a backup to handle all the areas we covered. It's also just a good business practice to always have a backup in the event that one is out of the office or unavailable. The next one is be mindful of the roles of the general user, understanding who has access to what information, and only add users who requires access. The self-assessment guide helps E-Verify employers comply with the requirements provided in E-Verify user manual and the E-Verify MOU for employers and improve overall use of E-Verify. Lastly, our case report allows program administrators and general users to look up, manage, and track their E-Verify cases, ensuring that you are using E-Verify accurately and across all newly hired employees. Now, there are some actions to avoid. Using E-Verify randomly or to pre-screen certain employees is a violation of the Anti-Discrimination Act. E-Verify can only be used after an offer of employment has been sent and accepted by the employee and a Form I-9 has been completed. Remember, as discussed earlier in this webinar, it is the prerogative of the employee to determine if they want to contest their TNC, and you must not take action against that employee if they choose to contest the TNC. And finally, you must provide the employee the opportunity to contest their TNC, and you cannot request the employee different documents to review. Now, while E-Verify is a wonderful tool for business, it is important to remember your employees have rights and you have responsibilities. Employers must notify existing and potential employees that they actually use E-Verify by displaying the E-Verify participation poster in English and Spanish. The employer must also provide the employee rights poster in English and Spanish. Both posters can be displayed anywhere your company has the most foot traffic and or on the web page. Posters are available once you have enrolled. The program administrator on the account can access them in the resources section of the account. Now, the employee and the employer can call the immigrant and employees' rights with those numbers that you see listed there. But once you talk to the person on the end of the phone, you can stay anonymous. Now, I want to turn this back over to Don so he could briefly go over some of the resources that we offer. Don?
Okay, our last presentation is going to be very quick. Let's share my screen. All right, here we are. So, as you can tell, if we want to view our resources, we can go up to the top, or we could use the quick links buttons to go to view resources or contact us. I like to go to the resources up top and then go to view essential resources. Here you'll see all of what you're looking for. The E-Verify posters, our manuals and guides, samples of the further action notices, our referral date confirmations and a sample there, our Form I-9 resources. And what I want to highlight is our go-to manual, which is the handbook for employers, that guidance for completing the Form I-9, and we call it the M-274. That is everything you want to know on how to complete that Form I-9, or you can go to I-9 Central. If you want to get the latest versions of the Form I-9, both in English and in Spanish, you can simply click here. And then, of course, we have samples of our MOUs for that you may receive as a different type of employer that's in here. Now, one of the things that I do want to highlight is this contact us. You can contact our E-Verify customer support. The number is here, and there's also a number for employees to call in on to rectify their TNC. And then, of course, we have the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. And of course, the hotline numbers are here. All right, so that concludes my last demonstration. We're going to turn it back over to Legina to close this webinar out.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go over some of those resources that he talked about as well. We're coming to the top of the hour, but first I want to let you know our engagement team provides updates and information on E-Verify and now E-Verify Plus. We are excited to offer it to you today as a trial. The new E-Verify Plus is a revamped, reformulated, re-image E-Verify with many new features that actually make it so much easier to just click, confirm, and carry on. Now, this actually shows exactly the benefits that the employer and the employee has and the comparison to E-Verify Plus and E-Verify. Now, busy employers will welcome the new E-Verify Plus because it reduces their burden in two new ways. First, employees will be notified directly of any mismatches. Second, all identity documentation will be in one place along with the Form I-9 and E-Verify results. Now, I just want to thank you for spending a couple of minutes learning about the latest updates in E-Verify Plus. E-Verify Plus is available to employers access companies. These are accounts who sign into E-Verify through the web browser. If your company actively uses E-Verify and has an active program administrator, the account may already be set up. Just join by clicking the enable button and following a few short steps. If you do not see the enable button, contact us at E-Verify Plus at uscis.dhs.gov and email. When you email us, please include your E-Verify company ID and the state that you would like to sign up. Now, just remember that becomes a hyperlink, so you can go straight to that once you receive today's presentation. And, you know, we do offer all of my colleagues and I, we do offer a lot of these links right here for you to have shortcuts for the Form I-9 Central and E-Verify, the manual, the remote examining, and actually the webinar calendar. That's really important to check our monthly webinars and the free services that we offer to those webinars. Now, we are a part of the E-Verify engagement team, and we do offer the public webinars that you can click on that link. And for the dates and times, we also come to your company in person to be a guest speaker, to train at any of your training facilities. So just click on those links to get that request in there. Since you are already enrolled in E-Verify, but you don't have that logo, you can request that logo for approval with that link. And we are getting close to that end. So I want to make sure that you have the customer service information for E-Verify and Form I-9. If you want to email them, please use those links there. If you want to call, we have a employer's hotline as well as an employees hotline. And I want to give you now these activity codes for the SHRM and HRCI. Again, you will be able to get the certificates after today's presentation. But for right now, if you like, you can write these activity codes. If you are a SHRM professional, you can write down this activity code 24-CTZNM. If you are HRCI professional, your activity code is 686117. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. Download a copy of today's presentation on the registration page under webinar materials at the bottom of the page. Once you close the webinar, that means once we end this webinar, you can go back to the registration page and just go down and click onto that. The certificates that I just read to you and showed you, you will receive a thank you email shortly, just within the hour after the webinar concludes. It will have those certificates there for you. If you are unable, for whatever reason, to download today's presentation, or you have not yet received your certificate and you would like to request it, you can request it by going to this everify.gov, E-Verify outreach at uscis.dhs.gov, and just make sure when you email us, give us today's subject and the time. And I'm actually going to put that link right here in there just in case you need it here. I just submitted in there. So again, we want to thank you, and we apologize for going 3 minutes over, but we look forward to hearing from you in the next free public webinars. Have a good day.